Hello, this is Unitha Muhammad, and I'm here with your series on how to prepare for kingdom marriages. And today I wanted to talk about what do you do in your waiting time, in your waiting season, as you're waiting either for the relationship to come that God has promised you, are you believing God for, or while you're dating and you're waiting for your relationship to advance to the next level. Number one is stay in communion with God. You know, you got to stay in communion with God when you are preparing. And if you're dating someone, you have to stay in communion with God to see what are the instructions that God's giving you right now in this moment about this relationship. It's not a one-time check-in. It's a constant check-in with God on your relationship as you're dating. It's a constant, it's a weekly, it's sometimes a daily, depending on the circumstances around your relationship. When there's challenging situations going on, when there's doubts, when there's concerns, when there's questions, you really need to check in and be in communion with God. Along with that communion with God, I would say have some prayer warriors, some intercessors around you. Have people around you who hear God's voice, who you know are people of prayer who are praying on your behalf. You don't have to give them the details. Just say, pray for me in the area of relationships, and let the Spirit of God speak to them and hear what they have to say, because what they pick up in the Spirit, what they may get from God, could be a confirmation for you for some of the questions, some of the doubts, and some of the situations that you're facing in your relationship. That's for those of you who are dating. For those and who are in the discerning process, like you're really trying to figure out if this person is for you or not. Number two, for those who are not dating and you're believing God, commune with God to, number one, encourage yourself so that you can be encouraged in the Lord in this season in your life. And then number two, to get his strategy on where you need to be positioned in your life, to make sure that you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing, you're meeting your divine appointments, and that you are working and putting your eyes and putting your hands and putting your thoughts to the things that God has for you in this season. When you know that you are in the season that you believe God is saying this is your season of marriage, whether you're a male or a female, you need to be able to hear God's instructions. You don't have time to waste. You don't have to, you don't have time to waste time with meaningless relationships. You don't have time for a lot of idle time, Netflixing and chilling and all of that. You really need to be focused. You need to really have your mind focused in the area of relationships. Also, in the area of making sure that your business, your career, your ministry, whatever it is, your endeavors, that you are working them and doing them the way God wants you to be doing them. Because as all of you know, at any time, place, or situation, you could run into your purpose partner. And so, number two, when you are waiting, it's good to get out. When you are waiting for things to do, live a very social life. Live a life full of adventure. Don't sit around saying, well, I'll do this once I get married. I'll do that once I get married. No, live your singleness to the fullness. I remember it was a couple of years, I think, before I even got married. I remember the Lord spoke to me and one of my girlfriends, and he told us, take advantage of your singleness, because you're not going to be single soon. And I mean, when God told us that, it was something like in us that was like, woo, and we were like, okay. And I went out by myself. He told us to start going to the movies by ourselves, start going out to eat by ourselves. And I began to do that. I began to enjoy my own company. I just relished that, God had told us, like, you're not going to be able to lay around like you do now, right? Where you could just do what you want to do when you want to do it. And boy, when I got married, I remembered those words, because I remembered what a difference my life was now that I was married than when I was single. And I was so glad that God prepared me and my friend, and really had me relish in my singleness. Enjoy your singleness. Don't look at singleness as a curse. Some of you, like I said in an earlier video, are you really called to be married? You might be called to singleness. And so enjoy it. Don't look at singleness as a curse. Singleness is a good time. It's a very good time. So live your life now, in the moment. Live your life to the fullness. And don't sit around and be preoccupied and overthinking marriage and overthinking relationship. God knows your heart. He knows the desires of your heart, and he will lead you. So you can't be in your house. You can't be focused on one person. I believe you have to be, even if you sense in your mind that God has someone for you, I just believe you need to be open, because timing and everything else, God will show you how to be in your singleness, where for you maybe that could be your person, but you might have to date someone before, or there might be another situation that has to be cleaned up or whatever. I don't know. Everyone's single walk is different. Get the instructions for God, which is yours. But I just don't want, I see single women who just are so much thinking about being married that they're not living in their singleness to their fullest, right? And they're not really enjoying their singleness. And so number 3, is make sure that you are doing your work. Make sure that you are doing your inner work. Make sure you are healing. Make sure you are going through your childhood trauma. Make sure you are checking, because that will affect the kind of person that you attract. Your areas where you still need healing, all of that affects what kind of person you attract, what kind of relationship you'll have, and even making you more susceptible to counterfeits, making you more susceptible to people who are not your purpose partner, because you have areas in your life that need healing, that need deliverance. And I'm going to tell you, the way we choose from a place of where we're still broken and need healing is very different from a place of healing. I know it for myself. When I started healing, I started attracting a whole different kind of man. There were certain types of men I was attracting, and then I started attracting, and I personally think I've dated all great men, right? And but there was a different type, just levels and type that I attracted once I got myself together and I healed. And so you want to do that work. You don't want to, again, be waiting. Well, I'll wait till I get married or da-da-da-da. No, because some of you, you're in relationships right now and you think that's the one, and it's not. It's just not. And you know it. Deep in your spirit, you know it. Even if you're trying to make it work. I've been there. I've been in relationships that I have tried to make work and tried to make it be something that I knew it just wasn't, right? It just wasn't, right? And I wanted it because of appearances. I wanted it because I was just tired of it not being, whatever reasons. I really thought the guy was nice. I really could see the kind of future we could have, but it just was not it. And so sometimes that may be painful. Sometimes that may be hard. Sometimes that may be an eye-opener to find out. And then even for those of you who may sense you're a man or woman that you know who God has called you to be with, make sure you pray about it. Make sure that you seek the godly counsel of people around you. I always tell people, go on a fast, have your prayer partners, have people pray, have people that may not be privy to your situation pray. I think that's always a help. someone who doesn't know the details, so that when they're praying, you know if they are prophetic, or if they sense God is telling them something, you know they're objective, they have no skin in the game. You know, just get people to really pray and fast for you and with you in this area. Even when you say, you know, I'm in the discernment process, I think I know who it is, I just need God's confirmation. And God is faithful. God is so faithful that he will send it to you, and he will keep sending it, and he will keep sending it whether you want to hear it or not. Because sometimes that person we're with, God is saying no, and then sometimes there's a person that God is saying and we're saying no, right? Because we're just like, I can't be them, I can't, Jesus. You know, I even remember, you know, telling another one of my stories. I remember when God was speaking to me about my husband. So at my job, there was this prophet. Everyone knew he was a prophet. And he was like, Unitha, your husband is here at this job. Now, the job I was working at, I was on Skid Row. And I was like, my husband ain't here. I was like, my husband is not here. I'm sorry. I don't know what he's talking about. My husband is not here. And he kept telling me that. And he would see me like every few months or something. And he'll be like, Unitha, remember your husband. And I was like, I couldn't say, Satan, I rebuke you, because I knew the man was a true prophet of the Lord, right? Because, you know, there was a lot of things. I knew this man was a prophet. And so I was like, right? But even when he said that, and even when I was all, there was something that just made me go, maybe, might be, you know, I'm trying to be hard, but maybe. And I remember, I think if you looked at any of our other videos, I thought I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna say I thought it was someone else. I wanted it to be someone else who was more my type, the athletic type. And I just remember he basically was like telling me my husband was my husband. And I was like, like, you know, we were friends. We weren't dating or anything. And I just remember feeling like really angry and discouraged, and like, how you just gonna tell me, you know, somebody else is my husband? I want it to be him, and he's my type, and I don't know what's up with this guy, and I ain't dated no guy like him, and da-da-da-da. And I just remember I was really feeling some kind of way. I don't know if I expressed it to anyone or not, but I knew I was. I was really feeling some kind of way. And I just remember I just was like, but I'm going to be obedient to whatever God said. And again, when I was with my husband, the Lord never told me he was my husband. He told me be his friend. And I was always his friend, in the sense that, how can I say this? Because there was a time we weren't dating, and he was asking me out, remember? And then I went out with him and we were dating, but it wasn't like I don't know how to say it. It wasn't like an exclusive like dating. It was like a friendship kind of like dating, like hanging out, you know, doing stuff, but it was very casual. It wasn't formal, like you my woman, you know, it wasn't nothing like that. And because I had a busy life. I was doing stuff, doing ministry, doing the things I was doing, whatever it was at that time. He was doing whatever he was doing. So it was just like, it wasn't this whole thing about us being a couple. I do remember that. It was more just like we were really friends. We were really getting to know each other, and were more looking at each other like friends. And so it was very interesting that when people would say, oh, are you guys together, or are you guys? And I'd be like, no, that's my friend. Like, that's how I would. So you understand, that's how I would address him. That I think I remember that's how he would address me. Don't let me get to lying. But we were not like, oh, that's my girl, that's my boy. We weren't in that type of situation. So I remember when things changed and he went on this fast, and I had then began to instance that the Lord was saying that Omar was my husband, I remember it was right before my second mother, Queenie Sims. I remember before she died, and I remember just literally the last conversation she and I had on her side of this side of living was about Omar. And I thought that was very interesting, and I still remember that conversation to this day. And so I was like, because I trusted her as a woman of God, as a known woman of God. And so when she spoke, I was like, okay, well, she's the real deal. So, I got to hear her. And I remember when he was in prayer and fasting, I was fasting. I was praying and asking the Lord that whatever he came out of his fast, it would be well with me, because we would be in alignment. If we weren't, that was fine with me. If we were, that was fine with me. Another story for another time, because there was a lot of things going on with us before that time that I think we made that video for the married people, but there was a lot going on before that time, and I remember I was just like, whatever God's will, I want to be in God's will. And that even when he asked me to marry him, I was like, Lord, like, I just did not want to make the wrong choice. I was just like, Lord, if this ain't it, like, Lord, like, I was prepared to say no. I was literally leaving him hanging when he asked. He was waiting on an answer, and I was praying in the spirit, because I was like, I don't want to be in a... Ladies, gentlemen, I hope you have that thought that you just don't, let me get it together. I think because I'm finding that there are so many single men and women that just want it so bad, based on whatever their thoughts is of what marriage will bring them, that they're not thinking with common sense, and they're not really seeking the Lord for who their mate should be. And they're getting someone that they're pretty compatible with, kinda. We get some good times, but they're not looking at the red flags. They're not really taking time to process and think about some things that God is trying to show them about this person and about their family. If you don't think, you better learn the person before you get married, you better have met their family. You better have been around their friends and for some time. Because if you don't think patterns and ways of being don't go back to your potential spouse, it does. Their friends, their family members, what is common in the family. Is divorce rampant in the family? In what ways that divorce shows up in that family? Is it through adultery? Is it through whatever it is? Is it a family that has a lot of money problems? Is it a family that has a lot of anger and abuse? Is this a family that there's a lot of molestation and incest? Those things you need to know, and you need to know who the perpetrators are. You need to know that, because when you start having children, you got to know how to safeguard your children against certain family members that are perpetrators, or their children who could be victims and now perpetrators. It is so much that you have to be prayerful about, and you have to know whatever you are called to and made for you, you will be able to handle it. So what I'm saying, no person is perfect. I'm not saying that, but there are some battles, there are some walks you're not called to walk. There is a certain type of woman that is called to walk with a man that has been in the gay lifestyle. So I'm gonna say that's one area. Or someone who has been in bisexual or same-sex relationships prior to the marriage. There are men who are called to women. There is a temperament, there is a way, there is a calling, that ain't it for them. They're not tripping off of that as much as others. It's something they can handle, they can bear, they can walk with, they can do all these things that is required. Because if you think poof, someone says, I'm delivered, I'm no longer all that people say, right? those things are still going to be an issue in the marriage. I do not want people marrying in fantasy island. I don't want you getting in relationships in fantasy island. So there's a person that's called to that. There's a person that's called to someone who's been incarcerated. There's a person that's called to someone who may not be that smart. That's not me. I couldn't marry no one that was illiterate. But there is people who are. There are people who are called to different types of people with different types of issues that you can handle, whether you've been through that or not. More than likely, you may not have been, and in some ways you may have. Sometimes being through something your partner has that makes you more compatible. Sometimes you not, makes you more able to stand up under it and handle it and walk through it. I don't know, but I want you to know the things that you could be facing when you're dealing with people that you're out here dating. You're dealing with people who used to be abusive. You're dealing with people who have children. You're dealing with people who have children's fathers and children's mothers that now are going to be a part of your story if you are getting into a blended family. There are so many things that you need to think through, you need to process through. If that person isn't married and you're like, why aren't they married? You got to think about that. You have to look at them as a whole. Are they integral? Are they a person of character? Do they match up with you? Does their purpose and the call on their life matches where you know God is taking you? Again, you have to investigate those things in your singleness with a sober mind. And so I'm saying this again because while you wait, you are really not waiting, you're living, you're doing, you're before the Lord, you're exploring other options, you're living a life full of joy and excitement, you're traveling, you're spending time with great friends and family, you're having great times in your singleness, meeting new people. Whether you date them or not, they could be people that could just be great friends, right? So whatever that is, that's how I want you to be, because I know some women who have really set aside their lives and have just not allowed anything else to come in, and they're just focused and they just like, I just want to be married. Okay, but what else? What else? What else do you want? You want to be successful in your career? And then there's some people who just think about their career and they don't think about a relationship. And then by the time they think about a relationship, they have these established careers. Now, I don't know how to be in relationship. And so that's another reason why I'm doing these videos, because some people want to know how to do it God's way. Some people want to know how to walk in relationship, because I don't know. I spend all my time building my career and having these sex ships and having these booty calls and having these flings and having these encounters, right? And you don't know how to walk in a relationship with someone. And so, that's why I'm doing this. So next time we're coming, Pastor O and I are preparing some videos for you for a new series coming up. Stay tuned for that. We just, this holiday season, it's a lot going on. It's a lot things transpiring, but we're going to drop some videos for you guys. We're still continuing on preparing for kingdom marriages. I'm just so excited. I hope this video blesses you. I hope you're encouraged while you're waiting, because what we know, you're waiting, but you're living, and you're getting ready to meet that person God has for you, or you're ready for that relationship to go to the new level when that day, on that ordinary day, when you wake up thinking this is a day just like the day before, or something that God, and I'm not expecting, boom, and my divine purpose partner and I have met. We have literally, in some cases, you will bump into each other. In some cases, you'll reunite. In some cases, it'll just be whatever your story is. And you will meet your divine purpose partner, and you and them will take this, for those of you that are dating, you'll take the relationship to the next level. You'll decide, yes, we're going to get married. And I'm saying, again, purpose partners, the relationships aren't perfect, but they're perfect for you. But don't think that something that's toxic and something that isn't healthy, that isn't right, is for you too. So again, that's why it's so important for godly counsel, why it's so important sometimes to take premarital counseling, to have coaching, to have therapy, and definitely deal with those issues, those childhood wounds and those traumas that can keep your and make your picker off, and what you think is a blessing is actually sent straight from the enemy. So this is Unitha L. Muhammad, and as always, I wish you peace and blessings.